Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Village Board for December 4th, 2017. Please turn off your cell phone ringers and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Present.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Vito.
Here.
Trustee Papantos. Present. President Horker.
Here. I would be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of November 6th, 2017 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Lang. Second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are. I'd like to remove item 11B from the agenda.
Proclamations, congratulatory resolutions, and awards. Clerk Simpson.
Wheeling Police Department Life-Saving Award, Joseph Wolinski and Rick Richardson. On October 19, 2017, at 5:25 p.m., Joseph Wolinski was working as an assistant coach at a Wheeling High School freshman football game. A referee working in the football game suddenly fell to the ground. Off-duty police officer Rick Richardson, who was also working as an assistant football team coach, ran to the referee and observed that he was unconscious and not breathing. Officer Rick Richardson began performing CPR on the referee. Football coach Joseph Wolinski recognized this as a medical emergency and retrieved an AED defibrillator. Joseph Wolinski ran to the unconscious referee with the defibrillator. The defibrillator was hooked up to the referee and a shock was delivered. Officer Rick Richardson continued performing chest compressions on the referee, and after a few moments, the referee began to breathe on his own. The referee regained consciousness, was treated by paramedics who arrived on the scene, and he was transported to Glenbrook Hospital. The referee later underwent bypass surgery and is expected to make a complete recovery. Joseph Wolinski and Rick Richardson are commended for taking immediate life-saving actions, preventing a tragedy from taking place. Joseph Wolinski is recognized as being a valuable member of our community and an asset to both the Village of Wheeling and the Wheeling Police Department. Officer Rick Richardson is recognized as being a valuable member of the Wheeling Police Department.
Chief Dunn.
Good evening.
Could you elaborate on the story, please?
Thank you. So if I could ask Officer Rick Richardson and Coach Joe Wolinski to step up here, please. And I'd also ask Jim, where are you, to come up here also. So to summarize, on October 19th, Rick, while off duty and serving the capacity as a football coach at Wheeling High School, and the assistant football coach, Joe Wolinski, helped revive our referee, Jim Biggio, when he suddenly collapsed and suffered a heart attack on the Wheeling High School football field. And I believe it was a freshman game. I believe you have members of the freshman football team with us tonight, some of them. So you want to step up here? You can join us too. That'd be great. So Officer Richardson ran onto the field and immediately began to perform CPR on Jim, and the coach then went and retrieved an AED and was able to revive him and transport Jim to the hospital, and he's here with us tonight. So on behalf of the Village of Wheeling, the Wheeling Police Department, we'd like to present them both with the Police Department Life Saving Award. Jim asked if he could have a minute to add his own personal thanks.
Without these guys, I probably wouldn't be here tonight. As I told Joe's daughters, They're both my heroes and my guardian angels. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Wheeling Police to... Are you going to introduce something?
So we have a second life-saving, a third life-saving award tonight, and I would ask for Mohammed Salahuddin to please step up here. And then also, is Anna Diaz with us today? Did Anna come back in? Oh, here. Mohammed. So on September 24th, Wheeling resident Mohammed looked outside from his home and observed a child floating face down in a pond in his complex. He was able to run outside, enter the water, and pull the child to the shore, saving his life. The 5-year-old was not breathing. He started CPR and opened up the child's airway, and he started to breathe again. The Wheeling Fire Department responded as they always did, and guaranteed the preservation of life, and just did a wonderful job between everybody involved. And he was transported to the hospital and fully recovered. And this is Mrs. Diaz, the child's son, or mother. The mother. And on behalf of the Wheeling Police Department and the Village of Wheeling, we'd like to congratulate you and thank you very much for your heroic action. And we'd ask Clerk Simpson to read the into the record the award.
On September 24, 2017, at 6:30 p.m., Mohammed Salahuddin was inside of his residence at River Mills Crossing Complex when he looked out a window and observed a child floating face down in the complex pond. Mohammed Salahuddin exited his residence, entered the water, and pulled the child to shore. The 5-year-old autistic child was not breathing, and his eyes were rolling towards the back of his head. Mohammed Salahuddin cleared the child's mouth and began performing chest compressions. The child then began to spit up water and vomit. Mohammed Salahuddin rolled the child onto his side, opening up the child's airway, permitting the child to start breathing again. Mohammed Salahuddin called 911, and the child was wrapped in a blanket awaiting the arrival of paramedics. The child was transported to the hospital for treatment and made a full recovery. Mohammed Salahuddin is commended for taking immediate life-saving actions, preventing a tragedy from taking place. Mohammed Salahuddin is recognized as being a valuable member of our community and an asset to both the Village of Wheeling and the Wheeling Police Department.
So again, thank you and congratulations. And his wife and 2 children, 2 daughters are in the front row, so thank you also for joining us. In closing, I just want to acknowledge the members of the Wheeling Police Department who, on a daily basis, do what they can to protect life and property in the Village of Wheeling, and I'm very proud of them, and I know you all are too. And I know the Wheeling Fire Department, firemen are America's heroes. They do this on a daily basis, and they don't come up and take a bow for this. When we do it, we'll step up and take whatever we can get. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, officers. Minuteman Press is celebrating a 25th anniversary. I would like to welcome Al Rodin from Minuteman Press to the podium, please. There you are. I saw you. Say a few words. And
when I started in this business in November of 1992, I was thinking about the next week and the next month and not about 25 years. But the time has gone by very quickly, and Wheeling has been a wonderful place to do business. And I've enjoyed all the 25 years, and I would like to thank President Horker and all the trustees for this recognition this evening.
oh, thank you for staying in our village and doing business with us. We have a plaque to commemorate your 25-year anniversary with our village. Thank you, sir. There are no appointments. There are no oaths. Citizens' concerns and comments. Clerk Simpson, read the code, please.
Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Mr. Neff?
Just as a reminder, this is a time for the citizens to make their comments and express concerns, for the village board to listen. Neither the board nor staff is required to answer questions. Mr. Neff.
Thank you. Good evening. Steve Neff. I'm a Wheeling resident, and I also represent Wheeling on the Chicago Executive Airport Noise Committee. This morning, I just happen to live just north of Holmes Middle School, across the street. A jet came over my house at 5:58 a.m., and it sets off my motion detector lights, which is kind of unusual, but it does. I mean, not only is it loud, but it's low enough where the motion lights are going off. So I've been a proponent of noise abatement going on 3 years. Wanted to try and make a difference. I ended up getting invited to the inaugural Noise Committee at Chicago Executive Airport. Recently, last Tuesday, the airport had a big event. They had a public hearing which allowed residents to come out and make comments regarding a new noise contour map. So that was held at the Ramada Inn. It wasn't publicized very well. There was only like a couple of ads in the Daily Herald, but we did have a pretty big turnout. There wasn't any parking spaces left in the parking lot. Then people were allowed to make comments to go on part of the permanent record. It goes to the FAA. There's still time to make public comments. You have until December 8th to get them to Mead and Hunt, which is the consultants that put together this contour map. Just wanted to say that, you know, you go to the airport website, it says, hey, you can still make the comments, but then they took the comment form down. So unless you have a comment form, it's kind of hard to make a comment. So another announcement I'd like to make, we have a upcoming noise committee meeting on December 6th at 6 p.m. The public is invited to that. It gives you a chance to actually make comments and talk to the director of the airport and the other members of the committee, and that takes place at 1020 South Plant Drive. Please attend if you never have. Don't be shy. I mean, come out and see what's going on. Maybe you've got some good ideas we haven't tried yet. We're all ears. And then the regular Chicago Executive Airport Board meetings, the public is welcome to attend those as well. And those are held at 6 p.m. every third Wednesday of the month. And that is at the same location, the admin building at 1020 South Plant Drive. Basically right off of Milwaukee, you come off of Industrial and go straight back. You should run right into it. And so on Thursday, the airport is having their annual holiday party at Algowers, and all of you are going, I would assume, and I think this is an opportunity to share with the airport people that you've got long-suffering residents who live around the airport that haven't really had any relief from the noise going back 25 years. And we're not asking for anything unusual. This is, you know, we've got general aviation airports all over the country. They have voluntary noise abatement procedures, sound attenuation, noise monitors. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So I would just ask that you take that opportunity to talk to the airport on, you know, when we can start to expect some kind of a change, because it's really been a long time since we've been going to these meetings and trying to make a difference. So that is all I have to say tonight. I want to wish everybody happy holidays. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Neff.
Ms. Wilson?
Trustee Vito, at the last meeting, during the official communications, you talked about something going on in Springfield, something to do with labor and unions, and you said you were very upset about they criminalize different thought, and you said that we don't do that. And I was hoping that you would begin to apply the same measure of zeal toward criminalizing different thought here in Wheeling as you did when you spoke about state matters. Because maybe you're not aware, but I have a great deal of difficulty with Chief Jamie Dunn and some of his command staff that have been calling me at home and telling me they're investigating me for, when I was upset about Conway getting promoted to commander, the week before I had sent all of the other sergeants who were competing with that same position of commander evidence of Conway committing a decertifiable crime, a crime that would make him actually not entitled to a job at all under the Illinois Police Training Act. It's one of the few crimes that's listed there. And I asked Jamie Dunn to please consider one of the other sergeants for that position. And I copied all of the trustees on this board in that email. And when I attended the meeting to express my displeasure, I was told that pointing my finger was an act of aggravated assault upon an officer. I got a phone call from Commander Licari telling me that I was being investigated for aggravated assault. I imagine if I was guilty of that, I'd be in cuffs right now and not just get threats. So I got the phone call, and then a few days later, I got something in the U.S. mail. And then the 2 meetings ago, I believe it was John Kraft from the Edgar County Watchdogs came, and he came late, so I didn't have an opportunity to hand him the letter that Jamie Dunn handed me as I attempted to enter Village Hall to speak that night. He said that he knew I got it in the U.S. mail, but he wanted me to have a hand copy of it. And whether I was speaking to Gary, a retired Buffalo Grove police officer out front, he handed me that, and I said, I want to personally deliver it to you. So I think that is intimidation to chill my public activity up for different thought. And then I had this Wheeling police officer. I didn't recognize him because he's gained about 30 pounds in the last 20 years. He looked like Wheeling police, definitely, but it wasn't sure. But he drives a Toyota Highlander, license plate A Apple, H Harriet, 59632. And he follows me around. And when you do this kind of work with FOIA, sometimes municipalities get unhappy with you. And when I was being, a different municipality was unhappy with me and charged me with email harassment by electronic means, which was the subject of your letter that you signed when you sent it to the Daily Herald and other media. But I was just surprised because your office does criminal defense, and I would just be surprised that you would make a statement, an official statement as a public official, elected official, about someone who's been accused but not actually prosecuted for a crime. So I was actually found not guilty. And that officer sat during my trial last week through the whole thing, just staring at me, intimidating me. And the trial date before that, June 27th, it was Rogers that was there and actually confronted me when my public defender stepped 2 steps away from me, telling me he wanted to investigate me for some other crime. So I guess I just would like you to apply that same zeal that you have for the state, not criminalizing different thought, in your oversight of John Spondilis and what he permits the Wheeling Police Department to give me. And President Horker, do you remember giving me this right before the election? Is that a yes?
I believe my wife gave you that.
No, you handed it to me at the farm right before the election, and you called me the Queen of FOIA. You thanked me for my advocacy, and you even guided me on the types of things I should ask for pre-election in my FOIA request. You left me voice messages on how to work the algorithm with Facebook to make sure that most people got it. I saved that. I never erased it. and emails of suggestions of what I could do. So I was just so shocked when I see that you signed this letter discrediting my FOIA request, because actually the date at which you had signed it, I had only asked for one in the interim since the date of the time that had passed from the election. I had only had one FOIA request. Everything else was pre-election. So it's just disheartening that you appreciated my public transparency advocacy and crowned me, and then post-election you signed discrediting me for my reasons for doing this. So
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
and you're welcome.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Thank you. Staff reports. Mr. Janik, we have something about preparing for the cold weather.
Yes, thank you very much. I know it was 65 degrees today, and this weekend it was in the 50s and 60s, but it does appear that the weather is going to take a turn for the cooler part of the year. It's supposed to drop by 30 degrees tomorrow, and I just wanted to make sure that the public in general was reminded that they be very aware of their water pipes, particularly if they're on outside, near outside walls. If you need to take some sort of action to reduce those pipes getting cold or cracking, that sort of thing, to be very careful about that. The last thing you want is to leave your house and to come back and have a pipe burst for some reason that maybe was in an area of your house that was very cold, and it can really ruin your day.
Thank you, Mr. Janik. Anyone else?
I have a question for Mark. Mark, given the late leaf falling, and there's still a lot of leaves out there, is Waste Management still coming around with yard waste collection, or is that, because that's normally over by now, isn't it?
That's correct. It is over last week of November, so they will not be coming back.
Okay.
But that's relative to our contract.
Okay.
And we can't burn them.
You cannot burn leaves. That's correct.
Just making it clear. It's not funny.
You can dump them on the farm somewhere.
Consent agenda. Clerk Simpson.
Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution amending the Combined Area Fire Training CAFT intergovernmental agreement. 11C, resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement among the counties of Lake and the village of Antioch, the village of Lake Villa, the village of Round Lake Beach, the village of Grays Lake, the village of Libertyville, the village of Mundelein, the village of Vernon Hills, the village of Buffalo Grove, and the village of Wheeling for the equally shared costs for initial work towards the recertification of the existing quiet quarter along the Canadian National Railroad right-of-way. 11D, resolution for maintenance of streets and highways by municipality under the Illinois Highway Code. 11E, resolution accepting a proposal from Hager Engineering, LLC for consulting services involving the 2018 Street Improvement Program in the amount of $132,300. 11F, resolution accepting a proposal from Hager Engineering, LLC for consulting services involving the 2018 Street Light Replacement Program in the amount of $22,500.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Are there any questions about the consent items?
So moved.
There are no questions. I would take a motion from Trustee Brady. Second.
Second.
Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lane?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee President Horker?
Yes. There's no old business, new business. Ready?
Okay.
Public hearing.
Okay, I have to read a public hearing. The purpose of a public hearing is for the public to provide comment to the village board. Comments must be limited to the topic of the public hearing. The hearing will be open and the public will have an opportunity to make comments and ask questions. Each member of the public shall have 5 minutes to make their comments. During this time, staff and the board will not answer questions. Comments should not be repetitive or argumentative. After all members of the public have spoken, the village president and the village manager may, but they are not required to, address any comments or questions made by the public. Following the village president, village manager comments, the public hearing shall be closed.
Just to be clear, these are the rules that will be governing public hearings from now on. We're looking to Trustee Brady.
We just need a motion to adopt
Yes.
the proposed public hearing rules for tonight,
This is only for tonight.
for the public hearings tonight.
Shouldn't that read public comments instead of public hearing?
No, because,
We have public hearings when it comes to 6Bs.
well, and yes,
Well, people are only allowed to have 5 minutes to argue their case.
well, that's the proposed public hearing rules for the public hearings, to, if there's a lot of people, to make sure that you can get through in an efficient manner. These are the proposed rules. Obviously, they can be changed, but they're proposed rules for the 2 public hearings tonight.
Yeah, if we can back up for just a second, I'm not sure that everyone's clear. What was just read is only for tonight. It is not codified language. It's setting the parameters of the 2 public hearings that are before the board this evening, and they are not directed towards the petitioner. The petitioner has however long the petitioner needs to ask and answer questions of the board. This is only for the public's involvement in the public hearing for the 2 public hearings that are tonight. This is not a change to the code.
Okay. I just thought it was a little strange because public comments, you can get 5 minutes, but if you're arguing a case involving you and something going on in official business, you gotta get more than 5 minutes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Why is it only applicable tonight and not codified?
I mean, if this is something the board would want to consider for the future, we can definitely consider that, but we thought, given the nature that budgets tend to sometimes have more comments, then we'd want to make sure that there was a quick and efficient way so that the meeting didn't potentially last for hours and hours.
If the board would like to see this same language adopted into the code, we can absolutely bring an ordinance that says such.
Well, I just don't want it to not be uniform, where a public hearing X comes up and we say, okay, we're going to do this, and then public hearing Y comes up and we say, no, it's a free-for-all and you can talk for days and filibuster the meeting.
This is the same process that the Plan Commission uses. It is a bit discretionary, but as Attorney Maluzzi said, it's based really on the topic at hand. However, if the board would like, we can absolutely bring the same language to you in ordinance form at the next meeting.
Consensus of the board.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we need to be uniform on it.
Relative to whether or not we should implement this as a codified rule for public hearings, I'm going to seek the consent of the board. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
It will be on the agenda for December 18th. Thank you.
Make it so. Back to the matter at hand. I still need a motion to approve the rules for this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Vogel and second Trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. So tonight we have a public hearing. We'd like to open the hearing for the 2018 Village of Wheeling Annual Budget. This is a public hearing for the public to make comments regarding the 2018 Village of Wheeling Annual Budget. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. I would then entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Kruger.
Second.
Second, Trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Okay. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. I now would like to open a public hearing regarding the Class 6B for Leni B. Ornoff, Revocable Trust, or its nominee, 65th Century Drive. This is a public hearing for the public to make comments regarding the request for a Class 6B real estate tax assessment classification from Leni B. Ornoff, Revocable Trust. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Herald. Are there any comments from the public? Good thing we went through all that.
Terry, get up and say something. We made the rule.
There being no comments, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second, trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger? Yes. Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos? Yes. President Horker?
Yes. Clerk Simpson, item D.
Item D, resolution consenting to a Cook County Class 6B real estate tax assessment classification for the property located at 65 Century Drive in the village of Wheeling, Illinois.
Mr. Malenefi, what do you have for us?
Thank you, President Horker. An application for a 6B real estate property tax classification has been submitted by Leni B. Ornoff Revocable Trust or its nominee. The applicant plans to purchase the vacant industrial property at 65 Century Drive in Wheeling. Following a substantial rehabilitation of the existing facilities, they will lease the space to a related entity, OWS ENT Incorporated, a metal erection and welding company. The subject property is comprised of an approximately 40-year-old, 3,250 square foot industrial building situated on a 20,000 square foot site. According to the application, the property has not been fully utilized since February 28, 2017, when the previous occupant, Anderson Pest Control, vacated the building. It was completely vacated on March 1st, 2017. As outlined in Exhibit M of the application, while the vacancy has been less than the 24 contiguous months, a number of special circumstances exist at the property that hinder the ability of most industrial users to occupy the space. The special circumstances cited are obsolescence, deterioration, lack of ventilation, light or sanitary facilities, depreciation of maintenance, and the applicant desires to renovate or rehabilitate the building. The subject property has been identified as functionally obsolete since the building structure is approximately 40 years old. The ceilings are low at approximately 15-foot clear height. Substantial repairs are required and rehabilitation is necessary to address the functional obsolescence. The property requires roof repair and potentially replacement, repaving of the parking lot, demolition and replacement of the current HVAC system, and other potential office build-out to be an attractive option for a tenant. These issues must be addressed prior to the occupation of the tenant. The prospective purchaser desires to allocate approximately $100,000 for substantial rehabilitation, which would include the paving of the parking lot, the roof repair, demolition and replacement of the HVAC system, landscaping upgrades, relocation of the electrical and similar systems, and add a second drive-in and overhead door. According to the applicant, as highlighted in the 6B contingency clause in Exhibit H, this property acquisition and subsequent investment is subject to the approval of Class 6B real estate property tax classification. The applicant projects probably 20 construction jobs would be created during the rehabilitation, and the tenant would also likely bring a number of jobs and attract business traffic to Wheeling during the course of its normal operations. Village staff has reviewed the application as summarized and recommends approval of the Class 6B property tax classification with special circumstances and with substantial rehabilitation. The applicant and his attorney are here to answer any questions the board may have.
Trustee Krueger, you have questions or comments?
I do. Thank you, Mr. President. Director Malenefi, my only question is really about the 6B tax rate. The clock starts ticking on that upon occupancy of a new tenant of the building, right?
That's correct. The 6B does not become effective until the property is occupied by the tenant.
And is there a limit of how much time a property owner or recipient of a 6B classification has to move along with their
Yes.
renovations?
Yes, it could take a couple years. I mean, in essence, for if there's a 6B already on the property and they lose their tenant, they have time to bring in a new tenant. And once that new tenant comes in, it's.
And if they have no tenant and they don't do any renovation, can they lose their 6B?
Yes, they don't get it unless there is a tenant in the building.
Very good, thank you.
And they'd also have to meet any other county requirements, which may include the living wage and the sick leave ordinances the county's instituted.
And is the county polices this? Or?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
So moved.
That would be a motion from Trustee Lang.
Second.
Trustee Kruger. Roll call, Clerk Simpson?
It's Lang and Kruger.
I believe so.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item E.
Item E, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for ground transportation service, large 2160 Foster Avenue, AMS Limousine Service, docket number 2017-13.
Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, President Horker. The petitioner, AMS Limousine, located at 2160 Foster, is technically considered a large ground transportation service and therefore requires a special use. The Plan Commission has reviewed the special use for this small limousine service and has recommended approval subject to a few conditions. Number one, the parking lots and drive aisles shall be seal coated and striped prior to occupancy. Number two, the number and size of fleet vehicles may fluctuate provided that unobstructed drive aisles are provided in accordance with the code. Number three, trash receptacles shall be stored indoors. And number four, prior to final occupancy, the petitioner shall return to the Plan Commission with a landscape plan for minor site plan and appearance approval. With that, I believe the petitioner is here to answer any questions you could have.
Questions from the board? Trustee Papantos?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Duvalis?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome to Wheeling, first of all. Thank you. Do you plan to do any type of maintenance at this facility? So it is 100% parking?
Only 3 years old. We keep owning the cars for 3 years, and then go to where we buy them from, lease them, Highland Park, Lincoln Mercury, Highland Park, so we can do no maintenance.
Okay, and that includes washing?
Absolutely not.
Detailing?
Nothing.
Great. Welcome to Wheeling. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Any other questions? Otherwise, I would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Trustee Brady, second.
Thank you.
Trustee Vogel. Roll call, Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item F.
F?
No?
Yeah. Okay. F, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for a health club at 740 West Hintz Road, State Fit 24, docket number 2017-14.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. The petitioner, Stayfit, is a, excuse me, I lost my spot. Stayfit 24 is a small health club facility. It is, however, above the threshold triggering the special use requirement in our code. The applicant is a related business to Family Video. They intend to take a portion of the space inside the existing store. The Plan Commission did recommend approval of this subject to conditions. I apologize that I did not copy them directly into my recommendation. I'll read them for you, though. The first condition relates to a new rear exit. Plan Commission has recommended a condition that the petitioner, a building permit, extend a walkway from a new rear entrance to the parking lot. It's an exit door required for the second unit. And the second condition is that the landscape plan for the previously approved site, the Family Video, is the minimum standard for the special use as it goes forward. With that, I believe the petitioner is here and can answer any questions you have.
Any questions from the board? There are no questions. I would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
With conditions, yes?
With the conditions as read, the sidewalk and the landscaping.
Yes, they're written in the ordinance, I just didn't put them
Section
into the
D,
memo
yes.
correctly.
Thank you, Mr. Spendos.
Papantos?
Kruger and then Papantos, yes. Papantos, then Kruger, I'm sorry.
Papantos and Kruger. Okay. Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Item G, resolution declaring a tax year 2016 surplus in the Crossroad Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office.
Mr. Mondeshane, what is this?
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me, as the board will recall, back in 2005, we entered into an intergovernmental agreement with School District 214 and District 21 that requires the village to declare a surplus in the Crossroads TIF district every year equal to 72% of the annual property tax increment. This year, that amounts to $2,015,558 and brings the total that the village has declared as surplus since 2005 to $25,326,485. So if approved, this resolution will declare this year's surplus and allow us to distribute that money to the other taxing districts. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. Director Mondeshane, just real quick, what is the village's share of this?
The village's share is $273,155, and some of that money goes to the police and fire pension funds. The majority goes to the village's general fund.
Thank you.
Trustee Lang, you had a question?
Yeah, Mr. Mondeshane, so say these TIFs never existed, what would we expect that money to be over that since 2005? You know, sometimes the TIFs seem to be a great thing to attract businesses, and other times they don't pay out, so.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's a great question, and it's a difficult one to answer, too, because we'd have to know what would have happened had we not had a TIF district there to create new increment and equalized assessed value. I can tell you that since 2005, the EAV in the Crossroads TIF has grown from about 13 million to 36.4 million, and I think there's a strong argument that that would not have happened without the TIF districts. So to answer your question exactly, I'm not sure I'd be able to do that, but certainly there's been a lot of development in the Crossroads TIF that would not have taken place absent the TIF district.
So they do work, they're just kind of painful at times to the taxing bodies because things get frozen.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Just for the benefit of every of the concerned citizens, when you say that the $273,000 will be distributed to the village's general fund, can you please explain how that works, or why that is being distributed to the village's general fund?
Sure. The total distribution of $2,015,000 is distributed to the taxing districts that are impacted by the TIF district on a pro rata basis based on their property tax rate. So the village's property tax rate is roughly 13% of the property tax bill, and as a result, we end up getting about $273,000. About 73% of that gets allocated to the general fund as revenue for the general fund, and then the other 27% goes to the police and fire pension funds. So each taxing district will get their share of the total distribution and can use it to support their operations.
Thank you, Mr. Mondeshane. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Spondilis.
Wanted to add something that Trustee Lang made a good point earlier when he talked about the impact of TIFs on the taxing bodies. And I think sometimes the public doesn't recognize that the village, obviously we are a taxing body, but TIFs affect us the same way it affects any other taxing body. So when you look at some of these projects that are happening next door, anywhere within a TIF district, the village doesn't get any impact from property taxes on those projects for whatever the remaining years are in that TIF, up to 23 years. So when you see all this development happening, as good as it is, there isn't necessarily a reciprocal cash inflow to the village for the same reason that every other taxing body is concerned about the use of TIFs. So is the Village of Wheeling. And I think sometimes that point gets lost in the general discussion on the pros and cons of TIFs. And I think this is just a good opportunity to remind everyone about the impact of the Village of Wheeling and exactly how little, in this case, the village's tax percentage is on the whole bill. As Director Monchain explained, it's just about 13%, so we would only get 13% of that rebate.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilis. Anybody else? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Vogel, second Trustee Papantos.
Okay, Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
H, resolution declaring a tax year 2016 surplus in the South Milwaukee Avenue, Manchester Drive Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office.
Mr. Monchain.
Thank you. This item is similar to the last one, except that it involves the South Milwaukee TIF District. In 2014, the village entered into an intergovernmental agreement with School District 21, the Wheeling Park District, and Indian Trails Library District. And that agreement requires us to declare a surplus on an annual basis equal to 45% of the increment that's generated by the South Milwaukee TIF. This year, that amounts to $710,365. The village's share of that is $96,271. And since 2014, including this year's distribution, the village will have distributed $5,095,813 in surplus in this TIF district. And I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Trustee Papantos.
I just want to clarify one other point. For the school districts, these surpluses that we theoretically distribute or the county distributes after we write the check does not affect their tax cap, correct?
That's correct. This is over and above whatever they get from their property tax levy.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Being no questions, I would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
for Trustee Krueger, second Trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
I, resolution authorizing the adoption of a private retention, detention, stormwater basic policy for the Village of Wheeling.
Mr. Spondilis.
Thank you. I am happy this evening to present the board with a financial policy titled a Private Retention, Detention, Stormwater Basin Policy. We tried to make that title as long as possible. Stormwater mitigation is a concern for every property owner. Regionally, the village has and will continue to fund projects on public property for public infrastructure that help protect all residents from the effects of floodwater. Some projects, however, are the responsibility of individual property owners, such as retention, detention basins, ponds, and swales within associations. Recognizing that the cost of such maintenance can be significant for homeowners associations who can only draw revenue from resident dues, staff drafted a policy that is meant to encourage private projects by waiving engineering fees related to, specifically to permitting for the village. To be clear, this policy is for the benefit of residential homeowner associations only. And this is probably the only time I ever wrote a memo or will make a presentation where I talk about what the policy isn't as opposed to what it is. This policy does not provide relief for any new construction. This policy is specific to above-ground facilities, retention, detention basins, and swales. And this policy does not provide relief to commercial or industrial properties, nor professionally managed apartment properties. It also does not relieve other bodies of government or not-for-profit entities. Again, we believe this policy, should the board choose to approve it, is meant to be an outreach to our homeowners associations who face significant maintenance costs. While the village cannot aid in maintaining private development, it can choose to not implement additional costs. I'm happy to answer any questions, and President Horker, if you would, at the end, I have an additional request related to this, but thought we'd get through the policy first.
Sure. Trustee Lang.
Thank you. Well, this again is another step in the right direction for stormwater management in Wheeling, where I see work is done on, is starting to, just starting on Buffalo Creek Reservoir.
Yes.
Sorry, I can't speak tonight. And that should help our Buffalo Creek here quite a bit. So that, along with some of this other, again, all this is adding up to really helping us out. We've seen in the recent storms that we've fared pretty well. That was a knock, but you know, appreciate the efforts, and this goes a long way to help that cause.
Thank you.
I do have a question. If there is one of these homeowners associations that happen to fall into a TIF district, would that possibly pay for those fees? You know, there's still work that has to be done. Engineering and so on is nothing that you can just, we're writing it off in this case, but it's not something that is cheap by any means.
I don't know that there's any applicable associations within a TIF district. Mr. Janik, am I correct?
Northgate Crossings, even though it's a rental facility, Northgate Crossings.
Well, to be clear, okay, go ahead.
On Northgate, so that's not really a homeowners association.
And that's why I wanted to draw the distinction between rental apartment buildings that are managed professionally by a company are not eligible for this program. This is meant for homeowners associations. Those that have detention, retention basins that have been in the neighborhood under their ownership for potentially decades, that have not had any maintenance, but are the responsibility of the homeowners association. Again, that's an important distinction because it's the homeowners that may not have, who run their own association, who may not have even known that it was their obligation. They've now been made aware of it, but this is not meant to provide relief to companies that have maintenance responsibilities. So that's why I wanted to draw that distinction with what this policy doesn't cover, because business entities should understand their responsibility and should have the financial ability and prowess to be able to plan for maintenance of stormwater basins and swales.
Well, and not to take anything from this ordinance, it goes a long way to help the homeowners that have issues or potential issues.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papp, Trustee Kruger, you're next.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, this is permit fees only that we're letting, and roughly what is a typical permit fee that one would see if somebody was about to do maintenance?
Andrew, do you know the percentage for engineering fees?
The percentage is 1.5%. I believe it's 1.5% of the cost of the improvements. However, to give you an idea of what people spend on maintenance, for instance, Lakeside Village just did a lot of work on their basins, but they did dredging, they redid the sides of their basins, they did a lot. They overhauled their stuff, they're still doing it. But for the most part, I think these costs are not going to be that great, or the projects aren't going to be that expensive. But it's possible they will be. I know that there's a couple out there right now that have erosion situations, and that will probably be relatively costly.
So theoretically, if it was $1 million project, it would be a savings of $15,000?
That's correct.
I'm good at math, Andrew. You don't have to. I see him calculating. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, President Horker. Manager's fund deal is, how will this new policy be communicated to qualifying HOAs? You mentioned that, they now know that they have to do this, but...
We will reach out to them. We keep a tally of all homeowners associations, and only some of them have private retention detention basins. We will reach out to them and let them know that the village, should you choose to adopt this, has passed a policy that waives the permit fees, and hopefully that will encourage them to not only remember that they have this responsibility, but also potentially motivate them to think about their basins, the effectiveness of those basins, and get a project up and running.
The packet that, at least this policy, also mentioned that, some homeowners associations undervalue because, like you were saying, they don't know that they have to do this kind of maintenance until, this maintenance rears its ugly head. I guess Director Janik even, alluded to knowing of some of qualifying homeowners associations where their retention basins are looking like they're going to need work. Are we letting them know? I mean, do we have a pretty comprehensive list? I would think we would have to know
what we don't do.
Qualifying homeowners associations that might look for this relief.
Yes, we have a list, and yes, we can notify them. We do not study private property basins, but I will say to the homeowner association's credit, and I can say this as a blanket statement, they are very aware of the effect of those basins, because as the years go on, depending on what it is, detention or retention, the maintenance requirement becomes fairly obvious, because the impact of those basins is no longer as great as it used to be, because either you have infill or the stream banks start to collapse, and all of a sudden a 1-inch rain starts to become a problem, and that's because the basin that used to hold 10 cubic feet, acre feet of water now holds 1. So they are very aware, but we can work more closely with them to remind them of, hey, you might want to study that.
I wasn't going to mention Lakeside, but since Director Janik brought them up, the improvements that they did there, it doesn't only just help the homeowners association. It absolutely helps all the communities around them, because flooding is everybody's problem. Everybody's affected by it, whether you're private property or public. And for all of the attentiveness that this village has put on stormwater mitigation, being at the bottom of the sieve, to the Des Plaines River, I think this relief to homeowners associations at least doesn't not only give them financial relief, but it gives them the village support and backing for them taking the initiative to do the work that's necessary, because it affects everyone around them. So, well done.
Trustee Vito, you had something to
say?
Yeah, and then Trustee Brady.
I concur with that. These retention ponds always take on more than just the water from wherever they're at, whether it's Arlington Club or Ridgefield or Lakeside Villas or whoever. So it's good because it is a community problem. So I commend staff on the policy, and every once in a while, staff, you make me look in a dictionary for a word. So a swale is a low or hollow place, especially a marshy depression between ridges. I did not know that before reading the packet. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Really? Trustee Brady.
Thank you. So I take it, we keep a scorecard on all these ponds in our community as to their health.
Well, we don't evaluate them. They're private property, so we don't go in and evaluate them. Do we know where they are? Yes.
So we don't know if there's a serious problem, or is it just a waning, thing that's going on?
There aren't any serious problems that we know of right now. I can tell you, which is going to be part of my next request, in the last 10 years, there have only been 2 permits pulled from a homeowners association to do a project that would qualify. There is 1 that happened this year, so that would be a total of 3. So I don't think that none of this is dire straits. There's no homeowners association that is in trouble. This is all about getting ahead of a situation before it becomes trouble. And it's just the village trying to help as much as we can, even though it's private property and it's their responsibility to not add on to the financial impact of these maintenance.
So we don't do any evaluation of each individual circumstance as how these ponds are operating. Are they ready for a workover? You know, and if that's the case, what can we do as a village to make sure that these ponds are maintained properly and on time to stop flooding down the stream?
Unfortunately, I think the answer is not much other than remind them of their responsibility. Because this policy deals specifically with privately owned retention, detention. For ours, for publicly owned stormwater facilities, we could answer that question. But this is all on private property owned by homeowners associations.
But MWRD has to have, somebody's got to have authority over these.
I think MWRD or any other oversight agency isn't going to get involved until there's a problem. And that in and of itself is a problem, and that's why we're trying to encourage projects before a real issue arises.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. If there are no other questions, Mr. Spondelis, you want to round this up?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask the board, should you consider this policy? It sounds like everyone is on board, but much to what I was saying to Trustee Brady, I think it's only fair that if we're going to put this policy in place, that we look back 5 years and rebate the 2 other permits that have been pulled that would qualify. It is a nominal financial impact to the village. In fact, it's below $5,000. However, I think just for the purposes of equity, that would be the right thing to do. So in addition to a yes or no on the policy, I would ask President Horker if you could poll the board on whether or not to do a 5-year look back where we would rebate the fees.
I would look for the consensus of the board as to whether or not we should do a 5-year retro sale price rebate. Trustee Brady?
Yeah.
Trustee Kruger?
Definitely.
Trustee Lang?
Yes, very fair.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
That would be Trustee Vogel.
Vogel?
Sure.
Sorry about that. Where I went. I'm a yes also.
Thank you.
Now I would look for a motion on the actual item.
Take my glasses off.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Brady, second Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jay.
Jay, discussion regarding Cedar Street Company's mixed-use development.
Manager's Fundalis.
Thank you. The project before you this evening, as you see that the team is assembling, the project before you this evening was last before the board in May of 2017. The project remains essentially the same, which is why tonight is only a discussion. There is not a concept review. It did not qualify for a concept review, nor are we asking for any approval of any formal process on the way to construction. This is an update from the development team based on a project that you have already seen. In May of 2017, the board expressed a number of concerns on the project. And as I said, there are new members to the team who are going to walk through what they have done since last appearing before the board. They have a detailed presentation for you, but I want to make sure that the board and the public understand, again, exactly what tonight is. Two things. This is an update and it's an opportunity. This is an update to what changes the board said they would like to see based on the last presentation, because again, the development is essentially the same as it was when you saw it in May of 2017. And it's an opportunity for the board to look at the project and really decide whether or not this is something that the board wants to participate in. I say that because this project in particular involves village-owned land. In order for the project to move forward, the village would have to in some way provide, sell, donate, incentivize the project through our land. So it's only fair to the development team that they understand where the board stands. In the memo, I detailed a number of options. Essentially, this is a yes or no question. Yes, you would like to see the project and the concept that you see before you move forward, or no, you don't wish to participate in this concept. Again, this is because the village owns land that is integral to the project. If the answer is yes, there are three options. To, one, delay the authorization of the public hearing until the terms of an RDA are more defined. Two, direct the developer to revise plans providing specific conditions under which the authorization for the public hearing would be granted. Or three, direct the village manager to authorize the public hearing for the development based on current plans. I mention public hearing because, again, we own the land. In order for the developer to move forward, I would have to sign an affidavit saying that the village is okay with a developer representing land that they don't own. We do. So that's why the distinction is drawn in those options about options related to the public hearing. So I will try at the end to wrap this up. I know there's a lot of detail coming, a lot of great pictures, a lot of site plans, but before all that comes in, I wanted to make sure there was a foundation for what tonight really is. This isn't about parking, this isn't about density, this is really yes or no whether or not you like the project enough to continue to get to that point to answer those questions about parking and density and setbacks, et cetera. So with that, I'm not sure who's presenting, but if you would.
Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Clerk, members of the Board of Trustees, and the public, members of the public. My name is Anthony Bruno, and I am coordinating this development project on behalf of Cedar Street. The Cedar Street team has made a great effort to learn, understand, and act upon the many positive and negative comments generated by the Village Board, the Planning Commission, and staff. We have reviewed all of the prior materials and the video from all of the prior meetings and have integrated those concerns into the result we're going to present to you tonight. We are very pleased to be here this evening. Thanks much for the invitation and the opportunity to provide you with a status report on Dundee Commons. This is a work in progress, as Mr. Fondelis has said, and nevertheless, we are ready to proceed and break ground as early as this coming spring. There will be several brief presentations this evening, followed by a question and answer session. And we will begin with Alex Samoyevich, the founding member of Cedar Street and managing partner of the Cedar Street Companies. Alex?
Hello, Village and Board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight and tell you a little bit about our qualifications and like our past projects over the past few years. We founded the company in 2001, and since 2001, mainly from 2008 to today, have developed over $1.2 billion of multifamily assets across the city of Chicago. We've done over 8,000 units, currently operating about 5,000 across 18 different submarkets in Chicago and 6 different villages across the city of Chicago. We currently have 3,000 units currently under construction in development across the city of Chicago, which we probably represent close to 20 to 25% of the market share of all developments here in Chicago. We have about $750 million in total construction developments today. We were awarded multiple awards in the past year from City of Chicago Mayor for historic landmarks, the best landmark of the year, historic redevelopment, developer of the year last year. And we've been in an active role as a diversified holding company across a vertically integrated development firm. So doing our own design architecture, construction, over $300 million in construction projects currently ourselves. We manage and operate all of our own operating entities on the property management side, doing residential and commercial real estate. So based on our qualifications, we think we'd be a great fit in coming here and developing, which we would be excited to be a part of the Village of Wheeling and development. We put together a really great development team, and we've also brought some of our qualifications. We work with all of the local community lenders across the city, any of the top 20 banks. We actually brought in one of our top lenders, Patrick Toohey, representing us from Marquette Bank. So just wanted to give you a little bit of idea of kind of what our qualifications are and us being a perfect developer to have the opportunity to develop in this wonderful village. I'd like to introduce you to Patrick Toohey from Marquette Bank.
Good evening. I'm a citizen of Des Plaines. I grew up in Mount Prospect. I went to high school at St. Vitus. I have been driving by the subject property for, well, I'm very cognizant of development relative to a submarket and how it works and how it benefits the community. I have looked at the plans, I have looked at what other developers are doing, and I looked at what they're going to do, and I am 100% behind this project. So, nothing more I can say other than the fact that this is a project that fits this community, not only today, but in the many years to come. You look at where millennials are at, you look at where my parents are at, you look at the distance between that property and the train, and what's happening over here at Dundee and Wheeling, and Arbor, and everything that's going on in this submarket, which I'm very, very involved with, not only as a citizen, but as a bank. I am 100% behind this project. Good evening.
Given the different comments and concerns that have been expressed over the last 6 months or so, the project has retained Randy Machowski of the Smith Group, and he's going to go through the presentation detail by detail. Randy?
Can I advance the slides with this?
Yes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure on behalf of Smith Group JGR to be here and explain this very exciting mixed-use development. And I just want to say that often we're called in to help on projects in which we really do a lot of planning for municipalities. We understand municipalities must meet the needs of its citizens. And subsequently, we believe that as a development team that we have the same goals, and that is to serve the interest of the residents of the village of Wheeling in the highest and best use for this property. So when I run through this description, I think we need to keep that in mind. Is this a development that you take pride in delivering for your citizens, as we believe that we will take pride in doing it also? It's going to accomplish many objectives. It's going to have for sale product. There'll be people living here 24/7. It will address tax base through retail, commercial component. It'll have parks, amenities, gazebos, and offer an alternative style of for sale product life to those who are some 81 people, families and households who are going to live in this development. We really think that's important because that's a differentiator for us, is that this is a for sale product. So people can actually live, walk their dog down by the park and the creek, go by the butterfly garden, and then on about their day in a very enjoyable way. It's going to foster social activity on a different level than you see in other communities here in the village. So with that oversight, I just want to say that it's my pleasure to present this on behalf of the team. All right, let me see how we can go there. So I know that all board members are familiar with this project, but I do want to applaud the Village of Wheeling and a lot of the hard work that the residents, yourselves, and other developers have brought forward, and to build upon the energy of the Wheeling Station site, the now under construction Wheeling Town site. That means a lot to have neighbors like that for this project. And we want to be a good neighbor, and we want to complement that development. So you see a 5-acre and a 4.5 acre. So we're going to talk about the 5 acres, if you can, please. So I mentioned we're in good company. Congratulations on this coming out of the ground. A lot of hard work. Also, with the proposed plans directly west here, a lot of hard work. Again, congratulations to help this development move forward. So we've addressed the members of the development team. Cedar Street, you've heard their qualifications, and they are unequaled. A major force, a real credit to Alex himself and his partners. Smith Group, our website isn't speaking for it, but we help communities and plan and make that marriage with developers to the best interest of the residents of those communities. We have about 10 different offices throughout the United States and China, and I have several coworkers. Hager Engineering, an instrumental component of this. We wouldn't be here without them. I know they were awarded a couple contracts tonight. You have trust in them, as we do have trust in them. It's very important because they're going to be addressing things like the stormwater needs, and the other civil infrastructure, the roadways, the meetings with IDOT, all those necessary ingredients to make this a successful and compatible development in the village. So, with that, I'm going to turn to a page here. I'm going to add a few notes. This is a mixed-use plan development, 25 row homes that we also call townhomes, and 18 carriage homes. The row homes are 1,750 square feet, and they're 3-bedroom. The carriage homes vary between 1,470 square feet and 2,100 square feet, and they're 2 and 4 bedrooms. This is a for-sale product, and they average 4.6 car spaces per unit in parking. They have 2 in the garage, a full-size garage, whether they be carriage house or townhomes. They have 2 cars in the driveway, and we have guest parking making up the other 0.6. There's 38 apartments that are on top of retail, and there's 18 covered garage spaces that are connected as a component of the building. These are heated, conditioned, cooled spaces that are directly a part of the commercial building. In addition, a small note, though, as we move through this, and I want to appreciate many comments from village members that have helped mature this plan to this point, such things as waste disposal, commercial areas, these are integrated into the building. There's no dumpsters sitting outside. These are in heated, cooled rooms within this building. So we're trying to be good neighbors. I mentioned that before. Nobody likes the sight of a dumpster or a falling screen fence around it. We're preventing that. We're bringing it into the building, heating it, cooling it, making it very convenient for use, and extracting that to a waste handler when necessary through a garage door. So furthermore, on the apartments, they're 710 square feet to 1,175 square feet, and they're 1 and 2 bedrooms. And we have 1.74 parking spaces per unit. Those are the details. So move on. I think everyone realizes where this project is, but in this context, I want to emphasize the proximity to the neighbors I mentioned, the 500 project in the town center, the village hall, of which I really enjoy the architecture of this. We're drawing upon this architecture, this vocabulary, this vernacular, when we're going to express such things as our monument sign. With the masonry that's around this building, we're going to complement that masonry with very similar masonry. Gateway abutments, bases for our gazebos, our introductory wayfinding sign, the water feature. It's all going to have these components so that they'll look very complementary, adjacent to each other. From a planning standpoint, it's very important, and I realize that we've heard Community Drive is a major entrance also for the town center eventually, but also moving through here and its connectivity to Northgate. That's very important. This development accommodates that. From a land planning standpoint, we plan for that. I do want to say there's a little jewel running through here too. It needs a little care. There's scouring on its shores of its embankment. Part of this project from the sustainable aspect is that we are going to naturalize that edge. We're going to stabilize that edge, and we're going to do it in a way that's going to attract a habitat and foster sustainability with stormwater and clean overland runoff before it goes into that stream, excuse me. So those are the components from an overall context standpoint. Here's the plan itself. These are the carriage homes in the center. These are the townhomes on the perimeter, the retail commercial building, parking in front, conveniently located to the retail component. We have a main street, or Trevor Way, it's also called, an entrance here off Dundee with a left turn lane that observed the transportation, I'm going to say, built work that's to happen for the town center. So this is working compatible with that. We have a right in, right out off of Northgate here, and then a full interchange here that you can turn left or right. This, I mentioned, the Community Boulevard here extension. We've hammer-headed this now in looking at opportunities of a way so that fire truck emergency access in the interim can be fully accommodated here in turning movements. Also, note that the orientation of all these units here in the townhomes or carriage homes, none look into the commercial development. They all look either onto Northgate, they look onto the adjacent parcel, which we look at being developed in the future in a compatible manner, or they look out onto the park in the stream. Some have inward views, but they look into the front doors of each other. All of the circulation throughout here, we've carefully studied with the help of turning movement programs that are software. We've been encouraged by village input that we added generous movement to those so that we can be assured that fire, waste handling, other circulation vehicles that need those large radiuses move through here conveniently, safely, and effectively. So I also want to add that the site character, what makes this different than others is the emphasis that we're going to have on a neighborhood. When you're in a neighborhood, you expect there'll be a place that you can walk your dog, that you can take your child down to the stream, that you can go for a walk along this pathway and enjoy this naturalized landscape, that you could visit the butterfly garden in a summer's day, that you could sit on any of the benches that are along here, or socialize with your friends at these two gazebos here. We often do this to build community spirit, and we have this for the townhome residents, or should the apartments come down, but we also have a place on top of the apartment building to foster socialization. We believe this reinforces community, this makes good neighbors, and it's an enjoyable community subsequent to that. I do want to go back to one of the things that amenities, looking at this, the covered parking that is incorporated right into the back side of these units here. We have a wide walk to allow safe distances when that car is backing out, just like you'd want out of any garage, to see oncoming residents or oncoming traffic. Also, from a parking standpoint, we've dedicated specifically, and this was something brought up in the previous comments, that you identified the apartment surface parking separate than the commercial parking. We're proposing it signed, be striped, and be numbered, and we're going to have a security person that moves through this whole development under one management to enforce at times, if necessary, that parking requirement. We're going to do our best that we possibly can. This is striping, the signage, the unit number. It's all been used successfully elsewhere in other similar developments like this to encourage residents have a parking space. So they're going to be here, 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 and here. I did touch upon management. management and maintenance are very, very important issues in a development like this. It's going to be under one management, and why would you do that? You do that from a security standpoint. You'd also do it from a maintenance standpoint for such things as snow removal. So one contractor moves through this. With the encouragement of comments from the village, we've looked at areas specifically to store and maintain those elements such as waste and snow. So, and it's to small details, and I don't want to go into the many that we've tried to address and have from this, but just a little notion about areas such as this, when a plow moves down through here, that this area could be used for snow storage. So we've tried to be cognizant of that and incorporate those things into the plan, because we truly believe that we've had developments like this operating, and they've operated successfully. And why they have is you address these needs at the beginning, and I commend the village for bringing these up and us addressing those. I do want to, this multicolored pavement here, part of our mission here collectively as citizens and as developers is to bring forward a sustainable development that's responsible to Mother Nature of all things. You mentioned stormwater concerns, and I've heard that addressed here, and I commend you that it be of paramount importance. And there's nothing in here in the built units that are in the floodway. These are all out of the floodway. We don't need to change the floodway. We've drawn these back far enough so that the buildings are out of the floodway. Furthermore, the sustainable aspect, these are all permeable paver spots. Not only are they useful, the permeable paver, but it accentuates the pavement around. It helps make a more personal character. Surrounding this building are all pavers. At the important crosswalks that we have connecting the walkways through here and to the edge and to the park, these are pavers that enhance that paving surface. That say to that pedestrian, I can cross here, it's friendly, the cars should stop. So with that component, I want to lead into the buildings. But first, just to reiterate, this is the landscape plan, and all these documents have been uploaded to the FTP site should you desire to look at them with more scrutiny. But the landscape here is considerable, and it's meant to emphasize a quality of development. Just like the materials in the building, the site brings a quality and a character. Here we've selected many plant materials for multi-seasonal interest. I mentioned the stabilization of the stream bank edge that's being scoured now, and it's going to be a natural enhancement. We'll have a pathway along through that park that's something similar to this, which is compacted aggregate. There'll be the gazebos that we mentioned to foster community. There'll be site lighting that's unique in its identity, and banners and images conveying the excitement of the commercial and retail area. The entrance sign that'll be a water feature and masonry component that complements this building's masonry on the site walls will be at the entrance off Dundee. There'll be seating, there'll be bike racks, and a bike area for parking down by the park. There'll be that permeable paver adjacent to the building, the crosswalk, the pavers at the building, the permeable pavers in the parking area. Also in the back of the carriage homes where they front other units, we're going to work at the paving, and we have an interesting how we change the concrete and the colored paving so that they understand where their driveway is and they park on a concrete surface, not an asphalt surface. And then the crosswalks that I mentioned, the pavers, street tree grates up next to the commercial area. So I've already went through and explained the site layout plan. By the way, there's a monument sign here at the corner. It's an L-shaped monument sign to pick up Northgate and Dundee. That again also has masonry components at its base, and it conforms with all the guidelines that are set forth in the Village of Wheeling's code. This is the building. It is under 50 foot high, subsequently not requiring any high-rise protection from a code standpoint. This is looking at the very It would be the southwest corner looking northeast. It has 3 stories of apartments above it and a first floor of retail commercial. This is one of the spaces above that is a community area. You can see the community area here. This most likely will lend itself to a restaurant. That will be very exciting and attract residents from both the neighborhood and from the village at large. These are the garage doors out the back and the 2 apartment entries here to above. The waste containers are in this area here and are shut and sealed behind doors. Here's the first floor plan. You can see the blue areas are the commercial. These are the corridor areas that are public, the 2 entrances, the trash containment areas. The second floor, there's about 12 units for each of these floors. Here's the different size units, as I mentioned previously, the community space, and a community space out in this edge also, around the balcony. Third floor. These are the elevations. The rear elevation, right? I do want to say something about the materials again with the compatibility. You know, the light colors that we tried to pick to be complementary with not only the site walls that I mentioned pick up on the vocabulary from here, but also complement the development as a whole. So when you perceive this as a neighborhood, you're going to have a commercial apartment building that has very similar and complementary materials to the townhomes, the row homes, or the carriage homes. So you see masonry walls, stone in the restaurant, limestone lintels, the anodized building cap from the material for the multi-lift. Going into the townhomes, these are the elevations of townhomes. They're basically 3-story with an option for the 4th. If somebody, what we have found is they really enjoy their personal spaces are on the roof. They can elect to develop this in a roof deck, so that can be used for socializing, quiet dining, barbecue up on top of the roof. And they get commanding views then out to the park overlooking the stream and to the east and the west. These are the carriage home units. Note that the size of the garage, 22 by 20, a 2-car garage. And very similar materials to I mentioned the commercial and the site development. So when we pull this all together, what we have presented here is, we think, a compatible development that meets the needs of the village of Wheeling, that we would like to see an alternative neighborhood developed. We realize that this is an opportunity to come before you and show us the update. We've thanked all those who have added comments. We want to continue the dialogue. These documents I mentioned were uploaded to the Village FTP site. So with that, I want to turn it back over to Anthony.
So that is the overview of the project. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. We'd be happy to entertain those. I'd like to see.
Just as a reminder to the board, as we entertain questions, essentially the project is still at the concept review stage. So what you saw here, some great ideas, some great looking illustrations. They have not been reviewed at the staff level for things like density, parking, setback, et cetera. Earlier today, Trustee Vogel had asked me, can you put together some comparisons of what things were to where they are now with some specific details? And we can't do that because we haven't gotten to that level yet. This, so far, they're pretty pictures as far as the process for the village's evaluation of the project. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that and didn't accept this as already reviewed and signed off by staff.
Well, relative to that article in the paper The development you're talking about building, that's this one.
Yes.
Pretty much made it sound like it's already being built.
We're ready to go, sir.
Understand? You're ready to go. This side of the table, there's no signatures on papers yet.
We understand that.
Okay. Article seemed a little premature. Questions from the board? Trustee Papantos.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have to ask, what's a lintel? Sorry.
It's above the window,
And the doors.
and it can be all different kinds of designs, from
Okay.
very skinny to very thick, to very dramatic, to very architecturally pretty.
That or I was going to have,
That's what I do too.
I was going to have trustee Vito look it up for me, but because
Yeah.
he does that.
How's that? Does that help?
That helps me a lot. Thank you. The last time you were in, Trustee Brady very specifically said, you're giving us half a sandwich. And with all the changes you've made, you have not increased the size of this sandwich. We are looking for an entire development. What happens if you don't get the rest of that property? What is your development going to do to the other 4.5 acres? What is this development going to do if you don't get that 4.5 acres and it just sits there? I mean, where are we going to go from here? I am very concerned about that.
We have one of our attorneys here who can address the efforts to acquire the land to the east.
Good evening. My name is Marty Schwartz. I'm with the law firm of Shane Banks, and we're in active negotiations with the owner of the property to the east to purchase it.
There's more than one owner over there, right?
There is, but we're in contact. I'm in contact with one. I believe the principals, the development team are negotiating with one of the other parties.
Okay, so that's two. How many owners of properties do we have over there?
There's three, as far as I know, there's three different owners. We already own, the development team, the owners already own one of the parcels also, in fact.
When did that occur?
I'm sorry, I don't know, but they do own, if you'd like, we can get that information to the board, we can send it to you.
Thank you.
If I may, just for, this is for posterity, obviously, and there's an audience at home. Can we just make sure everyone answers into a microphone? That'd be helpful. No problem, just going forward. Thank you.
I mean, according to the narrative that we were presented, it specifically says, please note, however, several of these property owners have expressed no interest at this time. And that's where my concern is coming from.
We are trying to acquire those properties, and we would like to have the village's assistance to the extent that they can do that.
In what way would the village be able to help you acquire property?
When we get to a purchase price, that may be something that would be, something that could be theoretically shared between the village and the development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Well, yeah, I too, some of my questions are about this additional 4.5 acres, and so I'd love to see the due diligence of going through and even now there's a woman house over here. I'm sorry, I don't have the address, but it looks like it's kept up pretty nicely, and it looks like she's there to stay. And have you approached someone like that? That particular?
We've approached all the property owners.
Okay. And do you feel fairly confident that you can eventually acquire these?
We don't know the answer to that. I think it's purely a question of money. When the day comes, it's a question of money. But we've already spent a considerable amount of time and money and engineering and consulting costs. So you'll see as Randy's handing out we do have it planned for. It's basically a mirror image of the site that was just described to you to the west. So if you'll see that we've planned for that. The question is whether or not we can acquire it, and then we need the village's cooperations to build the road, the connecting between Community Boulevard and Northgate. So yes, we've worked on it.
That was exactly question number 2.
Thank you. You can see it right there.
Is it mirrored
It's
to
a mirror.
this current project? And
It's basically a mirror, yes, sir.
yes. So, and one of the major concerns as well is connecting Community Boulevard. It's really going to help with traffic flow, not only for your project, but for others as well, and for the retail in there.
We agree, and that public road would certainly be part of the entire development package.
And then just final question, I do like what I see, but I'm, also concerned about the retail portion and commercial portion, and hoping that we don't get just another strip center. I'd like to see a nice build out, nice restaurants, and it looks like you have plans for that as well. So I'll be looking forward to those types of uses as well in the retail center, and not just another strip center.
Sir, as the financier in the bank behind it.
If you could, microphone. The microphone.
Come up to the mic, please.
I've been financing, if you call them strip centers, and malls and whatnot. That is a huge concern of mine. And as a resident of the area, that the retail is of significance. The build out, the design, the tenant, everything works for the community. And I've expressed that concern from the beginning, that the retail works for the community, it works for the residents, and it works long term. So I'm on the same page with you, sir.
Great. And you're
as the bank.
And your bank is financing
Marquette Bank. Yes, I've financed over $1 billion in the Chicago Metropolitan.
And hats off to you for already having finances in place.
I'm sorry, sir?
Hats off to the
yes,
group
and I've
for
financed,
having financing in place.
I've financed for Cedar Street, how many millions? North of 10, 15, I've over 10 million.
Great. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Those are my questions.
No, and they're good questions.
I look forward to
I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Thank you.
Questions, Trustee Brady, anything?
Well, I still have a sandwich in my eyes. I don't want to see just this go this way, because I know it's going to happen. They'll build it, and somebody else will come along later on, build something completely different in that next 4 acres. You have an opportunity here to keep a theme going from Northgate all the way to the post office. Now, I'm not sure that mirroring the shopping center is necessarily the right thing to do, but they could certainly integrate the buildings that they're building now and keep a nice pattern going, keep something nice going. No, I don't like, and basically, what's changed since the last time you were here? A few more parking spots, that's it. Still got 39 apartments up on top. You say you got 25 guest spots for parking. I have a little trouble finding them. Garbage rooms are awful small for a place this big. Gazebos, the parks, the gazebos would be in the sun of the building shade when you're trying to sit in there. And I don't know. It could be a nice project. One other thing I did notice, I went to Cedar Street, looked them up online, and I don't see anything other than Cedar Street bills rental units historically. I didn't see any type of owner-occupied type buildings.
Oh, for sale?
Yeah.
A lot of our for sale projects have all been sold. So a lot of the things that you see today are currently what we own and operate and manage today.
When you say sold, you mean individual units?
Individual units, yeah. We've done single family, townhouses, condos since 2001.
Okay, good. So I'm still disappointed in this. And you know what? Everybody's got their price. You guys better get over there and start talking to this woman a little bit harder. And there was some mention in here, somewhere in the information we got, you guys are looking for a hefty amount of TIF money. You guys are looking for a piece of property for the village of Wheeling. And you want our retention portion that we have set aside for developers. You want that for nothing. It's a lot of money. And what are we going to get out of it? So, I don't know. I'm not totally convinced yet.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Trustee Kruger and Trustee Vito, you're next.
Thank you, President Horger, and welcome, gentlemen. I'm going to make some comments first, and then I have a couple questions. I went back and I watched, just like you guys said that you went back and watched all the video of all the times that this project has come before either this board or the Plan Commission, or, well, there's certainly no video of them going to staff, but still, we know that you've been working with them. That in and of itself is, well, some would say commendable, but I'm starting to get troubled by that after 2.5 years, that there's been so many times that this project has had another iteration or another modification or a second or third concept. And I watched all the feedback from the 15th. I certainly watched what I said. And like Trustee Brady said, I really didn't see a concerted effort to, density and parking and really an upscale facade of the buildings on the property. Certainly in the newspaper article that came out prematurely, I agree. We see this picture that's on the screen now, but I didn't even see in my packet a better rendering of the coach home, row home, town home, carriage home. There are a number of different types of homes having been tossed out and discussed. I'm losing confidence in your project, to be quite frank. That changed so much that I'm not confident that you know what you want to put there, because it's changed so much. I mean, and I'm not even addressing the half sandwich part, because there is no phase 2 for me, because there's just not enough development or not development. There's not enough effort, I think, have been made yet to, go beyond into those 4.5, 5 acres. But I do want to try and be positive and ask, wouldn't this project do better considering the saturation of Town Center and Uptown 500? Those were concerns back in May. Wouldn't this project do better if it waited to see what the market impact is going to be of the neighbors of yours, to see if what you're proposing today is even viable? I mean, what's the rush, I guess, would be my question.
The cost, well, there's several concerns.
Mike?
One is the cost of carrying.
Sir, Mike, you're talking to the microphone, please?
Okay. One is the cost of carrying the property forward, but that's an economic concern. But in terms of saturation, this is different product. This is owner-occupied product. So it's different than the rental product across the street. And we believe that there is an opportunity for both the Village of Wheeling and for the developer to benefit from owner-occupied product.
I have to agree with that statement as well. But my other question is, let's say you get a positive nod here after tonight's discussion. What do you propose the next steps will be for this project?
We believe that we've addressed the parking and density concerns, but we would go through that with staff so that you could be comfortable with our analysis. We have provided to staff, I believe on November 9th it was, significant detail, which they waiting to review, waiting for some direction. All the engineering, the site plans, addressing the turning radiuses. I'm going from memory, so I apologize if I leave something out. We've spent a considerable amount of time and money, we believe, to address all of the issues: density, parking ratios, turning radiuses, all of those things that were brought up earlier this year.
I think it's only fair to say that I'm not sure that we agree with that. Certainly the time and money on your part, I'm not sure that staff concurs with the assessment that everything looks pretty okay.
I'm not saying that you have concurred on that. I say that you have the material and that you're going to look at it. It's already been prepared. And whether or not they concur 1 or 5 or no times, I don't know yet. That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Krueger. Trustee Vito?
I'm a little confused as to what's actually up for consideration. Are we considering just a concept review on phase 1, or is this phase 1 and phase 2 together? Can we just do a phase 1?
Part of the challenge with this project is that I'm not sure really that anybody, the process has been long and a bit convoluted. Tonight before you, this is a discussion. That's all this is. The questions that have been posed to you, at least by me, is really meant to help staff and the developer, because the developer, the landowner, is spending a lot of money with their consultants and creating the images and the plans before you. So I think what you need to do is look if you received the information that you asked for from the last discussion, which was you gave input last time, and now you're seeing the results of that input with the addition of the new members of the development team. So it really is just yes or no whether or not we proceed to the next step. It's as simple as that.
All right.
And it would only, I would clarify, it's only on phase 1, because phase 2, they do not have any ownership control over, so it's not being proposed at all.
Well, phase 2 is what scares me, because they want us to be a partner in the real estate acquisition when the owners know that they're going to extort us because we really want the land. That's not a deal I want to get into. I mean, if they know how badly we want the land and we have government financing of it, if I'm holding that property, I'm dancing around all night tonight. And I don't like being on a purchase side of that type of deal. I like phase 1. Everything that they've come up with today in phase 1, it looks nice. I'm a little concerned with density and market and everything like that, but, you know, I'm not sure what I'm voting on. So if I'm not sure what I'm voting on, my vote's a no.
Well, there's no vote.
In general.
It's you're telling us whether you want us to work with the development team to try and make this a reality. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I just don't see phase 2 ever coming to fruition with the village being a partner in the land acquisition.
I think that has to be part of your analysis as to what you say tonight to staff.
If I may, I don't think the public meeting is a proper place to discuss negotiations for the acquisition of land. I think that's something that we have to work through with staff and with your legal department, and whether or not you want a public road at the back there. All of those issues are would be part of a development agreement.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think we're negotiating anything. I think we're just talking about the parameters of the potential deal, and they're not good for us. I don't see them being good for us. If there's something, I mean, if you guys had the land, I mean, you got the guy saying he's got 25% of the market share in Chicago. You can't buy her out. I mean, you want us to come in on it and then we can't talk about it in public? I mean, I don't know. So with that, I'm a no. Thank you.
Anything? Mr. Vogel?
Yeah. You know, I too went back to May and looked at what we talked about, what changes we asked for, and I don't see them. Absolutely don't see them. I don't see any effort also to buy that land out there. It's like there was lipstick put on the old one and brought back to us. It's cosmetic to me. In your narrative, you talk about it's going to be a hot retail property, but yet you didn't change the parking for the retail. We're short 70 spaces for the size of it. So you're contradicting yourself in a lot of cases. So I just can't go along with it continuing this way. It's got to change. That's about it. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Well, that leaves me. My concerns are actually more to the compensatory storage and the TIF contributions. I mean, my understanding is you came in with a rough estimate, I hope it's a rough estimate of $5 million, and you're looking for compensatory storage, which really has a value of the property that's being developed, so and whatever it can be used for. but you're asking for this product to move forward, you're going to need a commitment, and correct me, they're going to need a commitment of our property, because isn't that into phase one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, it was simple, either one, thanks. So, and at that point, you are going to need compensatory storage to build your parking lot in the back. You're going to have to offset what you're paving, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those are, you're looking for a big chunk of money right up front on the first half of this development. That is my concern. The staff is looking for clear direction, and we have a choice of consensus options here. Mr. Svandilis, read them slowly again, please.
Well, if I may, I think, or can we start with a yes or a no? As whether or not we want to move forward. Then if the answer is yes, we can kind of split that up and make sure that everyone's on the same page. Again, this is not a concept review. This is a discussion, but the place in the development process that we are at is still the concept phase. So really the yes or no question is, do you want to move forward with the project that you see, giving staff direction to figure out all the details, knowing that there is a TIF incentive financially for cash and for land and for compensatory storage? So really we're asking, do you want to buy into this project?
Trustee Lang, you're first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, I don't know if I'm out of order, but
I'll recognize you.
thank you. Again, Marty Schwartz. I think the issue of a TIF, that was withdrawn, and I don't think we're asking the board today to approve any plan that has a TIF. We're not saying we're never going to ask for a TIF, but I think the proper procedure is we have our TIF consultants, and you have your TIF consultants, and you then discuss that. So we're not here saying if you approve this plan, for sure you're approving a TIF. I think that's subject to further negotiation. And as you said, here is the only real issue is, do you want to proceed with the plan? And if it comes up and you really like the plan and you want the TIF and the TIF makes sense, we could address it. Later on, if you decide you don't want the TIF, then we have to decide whether, we proceed with or without the TIF. But I want to make it clear, we're not asking for TIF approval.
And I'm not sure that we're saying anything different, you and I. I didn't put a number to it. I'm just saying that the project has been identified to need TIF and to need land and to need assistance with compensatory storage. I'm just letting the board know what the ask is. But you're correct. We would never negotiate in public, and we're certainly not committing the board to anything specific TIF related other than the idea that we have been made aware that the project requires TIF assistance. Simple as that.
Thank you very much.
And my vote on that didn't have TIF involved in it at all when I tell you what I'm thinking.
What are you thinking, Trustee Lang?
If I could be recognized to address one comment that Mr. Vogel made, please.
Sure.
What I would encourage to do is, as new members of the team, we've tried to address those comments from May, such as parking, as you brought up. We believe we have, and in the documents uploaded, all we ask is that you trust your staff who will be reviewing these to arrive at the same conclusion that you may have had. We realize that you haven't had the chance to look at other than perhaps what's been presented here tonight, but there are detailed documents that we have uploaded to the FTP site.
Just so you know, all the documents that have all 100 pages or whatever it was have been provided to the board in their entirety. So the board has had them and have them now.
I see. Thank you.
We're going to proceed with the consensus at this point. Trustee Lang.
So, where I'm at on this project, I do like this project, as I had said before. However, it needs to be a full project. Right now, as it stands, we don't have the second half of it, and so I would be a no. Come back with the second half of this project, and even if it's in a phase, the fact that you own that property makes me comfortable, I would be a strong yes. So where I'm at is, if we're talking where we're at right now, it's no. But in the future, it would be. If it's a full project, I would certainly support it.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Vito?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. To use Trustee Brady's metaphor, I don't know if I'm buying a half a sandwich or a full sandwich, and I don't want the full sandwich because I think it's going to be too expensive if we have to get involved with it. I do kind of like the half sandwich. I like what was shown to us, but I just, it's not ready. I just feel if they want that property so bad, they can acquire it, especially given the size that we were told of the development company tonight. I mean, at some point, that lady's going to say yes, and if they want it, they can pay for it. I don't want to put the village on that because I think it's a bad negotiation position to be in. So I'm a no.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Mary Kruger?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm more of a cake girl than a sandwich girl. This one needs to go back in the oven and cook for a lot longer. I've lost confidence in this project. Sorry, it's a no for me.
Trustee Mary Pantos?
Thank you. For the reasons that have been stated, I'm also a no. We need to get this project to one whole parcel. Building half a parcel, what it's going to do to the rest of the property if you never obtain that property will make it totally unsellable and unlivable. In the future, you won't be able to put Community Drive all the way through. And I'm also worried about what it would do as far as flooding for everybody to the east of that project at this point without a total project. I'm no at this point. Thank you.
Ken Brady? Trustee Ken Brady?
Thank you. You know, in reality, it looks like it has a lot of potential to become a good project. You heard me with this. I want that whole piece of property developed. And I think if, in fact, staff did start chewing on this design that we see tonight, it would automatically downsize because there's a lot of things I see in there that won't work. It's too jam-packed. But, you know, that I'm sure that we could overcome them things. But right now, I just want to give it a little time because I really am not ready to vote for this piece of the property.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Trustee Vogel?
I agree too, and don't take me wrong. I wasn't being highly critical of the project itself. I think it's beautiful. But like I said, there are no changes. We spent a lot of time back in May talking about it and discussing it and basically come back pretty much with the same thing. So again, half of a pie, whatever you want to call it, half-baked. My answer is no also.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. As irrelevant as my position may be, I am a no. I do like the project, but I do think you do have to get the other properties on your own. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Is that?
That's it?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Official communications. You have something for us, Clerk Simpson?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. On December 16th at 8 p.m., the Wheeling Police Department will host the annual Shop with the Cops event at the Wheeling Walmart. Shop with the Cops is a charity event where a selected group of less fortunate kids get to shop with a police officer to buy gifts for their families. Please contact the Crime Prevention Unit at 847-459-2645 for more information. On this coming Wednesday, December 6th, the police beat meeting will be held at 7 p.m. at the police station. And Lollipop Lane is in full gear. It'll run through this coming Sunday. Hours Saturday and Sunday are 2 to 5. Tuesday through Thursday, they're 6 to 8, and it's at Chamber Park at the church. Call me if you have questions about Lollipop Lane.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson.
Thank you.
Trustees?
No.
Trustees? Staff? Why? Somebody's pointing. Oh, Trustee Papantos. Thank you.
Sorry. We have continually heard from Ms. Wilson regarding her opinion of our staff. I want to make it clear that speaking for myself, and I think for the other members of this board, we believe our staff operates at all times with the most integrity, honesty, and does their job the best that they ever can. And I'm talking from managers Fondilas down to every part-time employee, every intern, every seasonal employee. We received a copy of a letter that Ms. Wilson sent out to the Attorney General. Basically, she accused staff of either wiping a credit card report with high-tech software, is what she said, or just not giving her all the information. Had you bothered to read the purchase card report, you would have seen that the item in question was split 5 ways between each of the 5 TIF districts. It was an airplane ticket. So let's say it was a $1,000 ticket, which it wasn't. If you divide it by 5, the charge to each TIF district was $200. It's as simple as that. Nobody changed data. Nobody did not give her the right data. Personally, I'm tired of it. And you're going to hear every time she's wrong, at least from me, because our staff does their job to the best of their ability and with the highest amount of integrity that we could ask for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Papentos. Staff, trustees. Approval of the bills for November 16th through the 29th. Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second.
Second?
Trustee Kruger. Roll call. No?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, you smiled. I thought I recognized the wrong trustee. We do have an executive session tonight. Tonight's executive session is for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees. I need a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Kruger, second, Trustee Vogel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We will recess into executive session at 8:36. Thank you.
8:56?
36.
Oh.
36. Looking right at it. I got it.
Immediately, huh?